thrilled we have so many special guests today. We have Wilma here. Dare here. We have Avis's family, Ed and Donna. Numerous newer faces, and I'm so thrilled you're here.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I thought you didn't recognize Carol. So I am your worship associate, Jacqueline Luck, and a member of this congregation, and it's a joy to be with you today. Community Church is a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all being. Please look in your weekly emails for announcements, community matters. I know that I have a couple I want to make real quickly. One is right after the service. We're having what we're going to be calling the Roots class. It means new to CCUU class. This is, we hope that all of you visitors, some of you folks we have seen for a long time even, would enjoy the conversation and kind of a refresher course. So we will meet probably about 12:15 after you've had time to get coffee, and we'll be in the fellowship hall. We are, no way to have another announcement. Oh, shucks. Oh, here it goes. Here.
Welcome to the club.
I know. At least I remember it. I know some of you have been very concerned about Article 2, the General Assembly, coming before General Assembly this June to be voted on. And so I printed out, but sadly my printer only printed half of it, so I had to make up the rest, but that's it. And I'm going to post it in the fellowship hall. I'm going to put it on the table first. I want you folks to look at this and read it. It's not so scary. You know, I talked to a lot of people that are terrified we're replacing our principles and things like that. We're not really replacing them. We're adding to what we say about ourselves. And I think you'll find this very informative. They list interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. And there's some printouts that describe what this means to us. We are very fortunate to welcome to the pulpit this morning my colleague and friend, as she is yours, Reverend Melaine Morel Ensminger. She has served 3 of the Greater New Orleans UU congregations, which is all of them, including this one. She was ordained in 1993 at First UU. She is now retired from full-time ministry, but she continues serving our home Universalist Unitarian in Ellisville, Mississippi, as a consulting minister. She will preach at CCUU quarterly. The board and worship committee have requested that she do that, and she has agreed, so that's wonderful. Would you join me in turning to the back of your order of service, and we will read in unison the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and pay tribute to the original inhabitants of this land. The city of New Orleans is a continuation of the indigenous thereof on the Mississippi River, known for thousands of years as Waukesha. Tribes that have lived on this land include the Catawba, the Natchez, the Choctaw, the Chickamauga, the Houma, the Tunica, the Biloxi, the Idaho, worship. It's our custom to have a call of worship.
Well, at least when I'm here. My internship minister told me never to announce a reading if it is printed in the order of service. He said, your people can read. In Christian churches, the time after Pentecost and before Advent is called ordinary time. Ordinary time is an in-between time, which is often an uncomfortable place to be. All of us, we, you and I, are in between right now. In between what was and what will be, in between who we were and who we will be, in between letting go and embracing, in between saying hello and saying goodbye. In betweenness, it's a time of fullness, full of anticipation, full of dread, full of hope, full of sadness. In-betweenness is a time of waiting. Waiting for news, waiting for departure, waiting for arrival, waiting for death, waiting for life. In-betweenness is a time of transformation, of growing, of becoming. It is our time.
It is our custom to light a chalice, invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing the words of the chalice light. We light this flame in order of service.
Our story for all ages this morning is one I have shared with you before. But hey, you may not remember it, and there's a lot of new people. And as John Behrens always says, a really good story is worth repeating. I'm going to need your help, and I think in a very short period of time you will figure out what your part is in this story. There's this farmer. His favorite horse runs away. Everyone in the village tells him that this is a terrible turn of events and that they feel very sorry for him. But the farmer says, could be good, could be bad, we'll see. The horse comes back a few days later, and it brings an entire herd of wild horses with it. Everyone in the village tells the farmer that this is a wonderful turn of events and that they're so happy for him. And the farmer says, could be good, could be bad, we'll see. So then, the farmer's son is out there in the corral trying to tame one of the new horses, and it throws him, and the young man breaks his leg. Everyone in the village tells the farmer that this is a terrible turn of events and that they feel really sorry for him. And the farmer says, could be good, could be bad, we'll see. Then, the country goes to war, and the army comes into the village, and they're going to conscript all the old enough males to go to war. But they leave the farmer's son alone because he has a broken leg and he's laid up in bed. Everyone in the village says, that this is so wonderful and that they're so happy for him. And the farmer says, could be good, could be bad, we'll see. We have to see. We'll sing our children's recessional now. And illustrating that things could be good, could be bad, we'll have to see. Please turn to number 17 in your hymnals.
This is our sacred time of remembering times of joy and times of sorrow that are personal to us. If you're online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comments section to be read aloud, hopefully. In person, you may write them on one of the cards being passed out. I saw Kathy have them. Here she is. By Kathy, and we'll read them from the pulpit. Please remain seated as we sing the interlude number 112, Do You Hear? sorrow today from Lizzie. Annabelle broke her arm and the bone moved. If it moves again, we will need surgery.
Six.
6 years old.
I had no idea.
She's 6 years old. Lizzie also has a joy. We sold our house and are settling into our new one. That is Alicia writes a joy. The little babies I taught over Zoom as high school freshmen 4 years ago graduated yesterday. So much pride, so much joy. From Maryland, my grandniece got married yesterday. Best wishes and a happy life with both her husband, Harish, and her. Sorrow. Turning 80 and not sure what to do with my life. Not sure I have enough money saved. That's always an issue, isn't it? We're very quite sorry. We will light a candle. Sorrow, a joy, a joy, a sorrow, oh, good. I thought it was my turn. One more joy. And then we light a candle for those joys who have remained within your heart and those sorrows not ready to be shared. Our hearts are with you. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. No money comes from on high. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online to ccuunoa.org//stewardship or text 504-370-2659, text GIVE. You can give in person this morning as the offering is passed. As we take the offering, let us sing number 1024. It's in the teal hymnal, and the Spirit says do. I don't know, you may have to stand to sing this one.
Spirit
reading this morning begins with a quote from the Dalai Lama. Remember that not getting what you want is sometimes a wonderful stroke of luck. J. Scott Henson writes, having grown up in a pretty strict evangelical home, any sort of Eastern philosophy was completely outside my frame of reference. But later, I was led to begin studying Taoism and Buddhism, most specifically Zen Buddhism, and I heard the story we just shared. I started to recognize that I had a mind, but I was not my mind. Meditation showed me how this mind is always grasping and wanting and reaching out for different things. My mind was a craving and aversion machine. It wasn't long before I realized that I wanted these things solely for the sake of having them, and that none of them were all that important. I just wanted what I wanted because I wanted it. I dreaded other things, and I realized that dreading something didn't stop it from happening. These realizations changed everything for me. Realizing that I was not my mind gave me a sense of objectivity about the things I wanted and the things I did not want. It taught me that I didn't have to be so attached to having or avoiding things. And this let me stop running. I learned that getting our way is overrated. And once we recognize this, we're much less susceptible to the whims of our flimsy, fragile, and fickle minds. My life has been a series of hard lessons brought about by my self-absorbed, entitled, and foolish choices. And they have all, in one way or another, taught me one thing. I don't know what's best, so a majority of the time I don't have any business getting what I want. We are emotional, short-sighted creatures who have no access to the future. Learning to cultivate acceptance for the things outside of our control often opens up amazing paths for us. I know it has for me. And that ends our reading this morning. Many of you may have heard the old saying in religious circles that clergy often preach sermons that they need to hear themselves. This is definitely one of those times. Back in December, I got the phone call from my son Stephen that I had been waiting for 25 years. He was moving home to New Orleans. Now, Stephen has not lived in New Orleans since high school, and he and I have not lived together in the same city since we lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee during my ministry there up until he moved out in 1999. That December phone call was one of the most emotional phone calls of my life. My head nearly exploded. My husband Eric came into the room where I was, concerned about what was this conversation with Stevie all about, and I made this gesture. And really, I had to rush Stephen off of the phone so that I could ugly cry with joy. And I did. I just sat there and sobbed. Now, you'd think, wouldn't you, that this is like the best thing that ever happened. That this news would be an unalloyed source of happiness, right? What could be better? than having my only child, my beloved son, so close to hand. No more 10-hour drives to Atlanta to see him. Now it's just a mere 15 minutes from his house to my house. Great, right? And then Eric said, gee, without the regular drive to Atlanta, I guess we're not stopping at Bates' House of Turkey in Evergreen, Alabama anymore, where you can have Thanksgiving dinner anytime you want. There'd be no more shopping at the IKEA in Atlanta, or the wonderful DeKalb World's Farmers Market in Decatur. There would be no more extravagant meals at of Spanish tapas plates at our favorite Atlanta restaurant, the Iberian Pig. There would be no more trips to Atlanta with a built-in place to stay for concerts and plays and Cirque du Soleil shows that aren't coming to New Orleans. There'd be no more evacuating to Stevie's house in Atlanta for every hurricane, even if we don't really have to evacuate. And then I thought more about it, and I realized more losses. There'd be no more spending the night at Stevie's house and getting up early in the morning before anybody else was awake and have coffee with him and sitting and talking together. Just the two of us, all by ourselves. And on the nights that we spent there watching our favorite TV shows with Stevie and his partner before we all turned in for the night. Wow. Who'd have thunk that by getting what I thought I really, really wanted, I'd be losing so much? Could be good, could be bad, we'll see. Parents for generations have held it as a truism that children should not get everything they want. Old parenting books even used to advise new moms not to pick up their babies when they cried because it would spoil them. Advice my mom, for one, followed religiously and scrupulously, leading to one neighbor to knock on my mom's door to tell her that her baby was crying. That baby was me. But it seems that it's true for us grown-ups as well. Buddhist James Scott Henson says that we human beings have no business getting what we want in general, which seems really weird. We want to argue with him, or at least I do. But he points out that we humans are volatile, emotional creatures, often wired for short-term thinking. In general, he says, we don't make our decisions using the best part of our brain. Negative emotions tend to short-circuit our rationality. And even positive emotions can influence us to overcommit. He writes, when you take all this together, it helps us to see that the things we want are flimsy and they change depending on our mood. The things we want become a lot less important when we realize that we might only want them because we had a bad night's sleep or we're overexcited. When Jansen writes, my life has been a series of hard lessons brought about by my self-absorbed, entitled, and foolish choices, I feel that in my bones. Forget about Stevie moving home to New Orleans. Think about all the times in your life you got what you wanted, and it turned out not so great. Or at least, not as great as you had pictured. The job you thought was perfect. the move you thought would solve everything, the trip you had planned forever, the seemingly perfect candidate for office, the perfect partner, the perfect minister. They all turned out at least somewhat less than you had imagined.
Amen.
There is no such thing as perfect. Not even perfect merely for us, right now. There's no perfect. Talk about not getting what you want. We even have a family story about Stevie himself at 8 years old, longing to visit his best friend who had moved with his family to Cleveland, Ohio. And on the second night of a long anticipated visit, I was tucking him in and he said, "Mom, how come you can get what you really, really want, and then when you get it, it's not what you thought?" I reminded him of this on Friday when we had lunch together, and the 42-year-old Stevie said, "Yeah, I remember that." Living in an attitude of acceptance is probably the hardest of all spiritual disciplines. Whatever happens, happens. And it could be good, it could be bad. We'll see. We've been trained since childhood to anticipate the good things we think we really want and to dread in advance the things we think we don't want. And neither state of emotion can change what happens in any way at all. Acceptance, as the Buddhist teaches us, brings about serenity. Accepting the things we cannot change, which, let's face it, is pretty much of everything in life, as the Serenity Prayer teaches us, there lies true wisdom. And Jesus taught, "Take no thought for the morrow will take care of itself." Maybe we should all practice acceptance instead of so much anticipation. Stevie and I will still have morning coffee together sometimes, maybe at each other's homes, or maybe at a New Orleans coffee shop. He really likes Pontilli right now. And we'll watch TV together. And we did that yesterday. And we just won't be spending the night at each other's houses, although we might, if the electricity goes out at one person's house, then we can stay at the other person's house if they still have electricity. But of course, we'll gain so much. We'll gain some holidays that he and I haven't spent together in a long, long time, like this past Mother's Day dinner, which made us both so emo that we both teared up. It'll probably be a very long time, if at all, before we eat again at the Iberian Pig. But I've heard about this tapas restaurant in New Orleans called Barcelona, and we're going to go there and try it. And we'll find other restaurants that we love in New Orleans and on the Gulf Coast, and that experience will be great too. And I guess I just have to wait for an IKEA to open up in Louisiana, or I'm just going to have to keep ordering online. But I will miss walking through the store. Not getting what you want and getting what you want and living in that weird in-between space when neither of those things has come to pass, it's a dance. It's a dance of anticipation and anxiety, happiness and worry. But really, if we're honest, all of life is like that. Dancing between what we want and what we actually get, and all of our weird, contradictory emotions. That old farmer is completely right. Things could be good, could be bad. We just have to do our best to live through it. And I guess that's just what I have to do, but y'all have to do it too. Amen, Ashe, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, blessed be.
Extinguish the chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts as we leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again.
After the words, a quiet. After the songs, a silence. After the crowd, only the memory recalls the gathering. Peace and justice have need of you. After the words, the music, and the gathering. God grant you dedication to justice. God grant you the will to be an apostle of peace. God grant you acceptance for whatever may come. Our service here is ended, but service in the wider world remains our continuing responsibility and an ever-renewing source of joy. Go from here and make peace, but first, let it be a dance.
May I
Ruth's class at 12:15. You can find me